Thank you, everybody, for attending. We'll be starting the presentation shortly. Hello, and thank you for joining this webinar hosted by Nextime in association with the U.S.-India Business Council, ICICI Bank Canada, CBRE, and the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. I am Mark Lessam, and Saurabh Shah is joining us today as co-moderator. Saurabh is a corporate advisor and a company law consultant. He's an advisor to several Indian and overseas companies operating in various sectors and industries. He holds high positions with several trade bodies and consulting firms, where he provides these companies with a wide range of business solutions and compliance-related services. Saurabh, I'm honored to share today's moderation duties with you. Welcome aboard. I am a senior executive director with Nextime, and I lead the efforts to enhance presence of Nextime in North America. Like many of you, I'm a business executive with operational experience across multiple functions and industries. I will share our contact information at the end of today's session, and I'd welcome meeting with anybody here interested in learning more about how Nextime might support your efforts. We're pleased today to have you for our final installment of our four-part series entitled Global Capability Centers, India as the Preferred Destination. It's been a great learning opportunity for all involved. Today, we're going to discuss the role of technology in virtual migration, transformation, and governance of GCCs. However, before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to welcome our distinguished panel. Saeed Belamkonda, the Executive Vice President of CBRE, and Darius Thomas, Deputy Managing Director for Business Process Management at Nextime. Now, I'm going to begin today with a brief overview of our previous broadcasts, followed by a presentation on today's topic. We will then have an expert panel discussion followed by audience questions if time permits. We do aim to conclude today's session in 45 to 60 minutes. Before we begin, please note that you are in listen-only mode. If you have any questions, please share them with us through the question box on the control panel. We will address those questions toward the end of our session today, or in writing if time does not permit us to cover them during a broadcast. So now I'm going to take a moment to reflect on a few key points from our prior sessions. In the initial broadcast, we highlighted India's advantages as a favorable location to set up a GCC. India's infrastructure, governmental incentives, economic advantages, and demographic trends all support what is expected to be a $60 billion industry by the year 2025. In the second installment of our series, we discussed key operating models for global capability centers, specifically captives, build, operate, and transfer, and managed service models, while covering also the essential aspects related to a cyber-resilient operational framework. In the last session, we learned that GCC's journey starts with the objective of cost reduction, centralization, and standardization of processes. However, as they scale up, they often become multifunctional and are better able to serve the organization's strategic goals. Each of these recordings for each of these earlier sessions are available on Nextime's YouTube channel. Today, we address how technology plays an important role in migration, transformation, and governance. As you consider migration to a GCC, there are multiple technology options available that can be useful from the initial onboarding and trading stage up to and including the introduction of new process-related tools. For example, process workflow tools help to map the as-is process and then define the to-be process. Similarly, a vast number of process-specific tools can be deployed during this phase. On the transformation side, effectively using, creating, or customizing applications can reduce manual administrative and repetitive tasks. Deploying technologies such as optical character reading, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and robotic process automation tends to save time, reduce cost, and maintain accuracy. Incorporating these tools depends on the nature, complexity, volume, and end goal of the activity. In addition, organizations making good use of such technological tools tend to increase their bandwidth and achieve better resource utilization. So it's also important to keep tabs on GCC performance through thoughtful governance. The goal, of course, is to ensure smooth operations and adherence to service level agreements. This can be done through the implementation of technology to monitor activity and improve output. Technology can also reduce risk and stabilize growth through early detection of deviations, essentially minimizing surprises. For example, data analytics and infographic-driven tools provide insight into real-time business data, making it easier for management to plan and act. Now, as we all know, communication tools such as Zoom and Slack and other online document sharing solutions like Google Docs and Microsoft Teams allow people to work together on essential documents and projects despite being oceans apart. With solutions such as Jira or Teamwork, project managers can assign specific tasks and monitor whether employees are on track to finish the project on time. But success is not entirely dependent on technology. People are a critical component of the equation. Business leaders must be cognizant of their team's ability to adapt and integrate a chosen technology into the given business processes and culture. It's no surprise that proper due diligence must be done by thoroughly vetting both technologies and prospective vendors. But it's equally important to gauge the adaptability of the selected technology to ensure it complements those processes. Investments in the best technology, poorly implemented for whatever reason, are wasteful. For a chosen technology to succeed, organizational goals and vision should be clearly communicated to the users. Explaining how the new technology will benefit the client and the employees themselves helps to promote buy-in. And it serves as a launching pad to successfully achieving the stated goals. Now, sometimes it's best to be first, and sometimes it's best to be right. With technology, implementation, being right wins. It's wise to identify experts on the team who support internal teams during implementation. Introducing technology by dividing its implementation into phases provides sufficient time for your people to get comfortable with it. Pilot projects are common and proven ways of doing this. Achieving realistic milestones also boosts the confidence in new technology. All this has to be backed by a well-charted training and roadmap. Change management theory suggests that knowledge sessions need to be revised based on learnings and gaps in the initial stages. One must create, review, and revise the governance framework to ensure overall objectives are being met. Once the agreed goals are achieved, a steady state will be attained. So working clockwise from the top of this graphic, other elements that need to be considered include the ability to scale up based on the expected growth of the business, the need for customization as per the nature and the complexity of the process. As earlier mentioned, managing all change is critical, so technical training, integrations and upgrades, and infrastructure changes must also be considered. A cost-benefit analysis should be performed for budgeting and return on investment justification. Data confidentiality and security needs to be studied to ensure that there is no breach, and technology should be an enabler. It provides means to create and make a difference. Again, moving you from the as is to the to be. So thank you for your attention to the short presentation. The information I presented was intended really just to set the context for our expert panel discussion. I'll now ask Saurabh to moderate that discussion and turn it over to you, Saurabh.
Thank you, Mark. Friends, we have two great panelists this evening, and of course, those who are joining from the US and other parts as per your time. Allow me to introduce our first eminent panelist, Sai Belamkonda. Sai is a technology leader with 27 years of experience, leading large global technology organizations with over $250 million in tech budgets. He is a seasoned professional in financial services, credit card, e-commerce, travel wealth management, asset management, PNC insurance, commercial real estate, and commerce innovation areas. In May 2018, Sai joined CBRE as a Senior Vice President, Chief Digital and Technology Officer. He leads digital and technology for global advisory services, marketing and CRM segments, generating $8 billion in revenue across 100 plus countries. Sai, welcome, and we are proud to have you with us.
Thank you.
Now allow me to introduce our second eminent panelist, Darius. As a Deputy Managing Director, he leads the business process management and entity setup management services at Nextime, SKP. He holds over 20 years of diverse experience leading financial and capital market operations. He has expertise in driving client value propositions through risk assessment, process efficiency, enhancements through lean robotics, analytics, visualization, and operating model redesign. He has worked extensively with senior stakeholders and C-suite leaders across the US, European, and Asian markets. Darius holds extensive experience in implementing automation and digital transformation projects for a vast portfolio of clients. Now I'd like to begin with our panel discussion, and I would like to direct my first question to Sai. Sai, what has been your experience of using technology in managing virtual migration, transformation, and governance of processes at CBRE? Over to you, Sai.
Thank you, Saurabh. And also, I want to take this opportunity to thank the Nextime leadership team. This is a great opportunity to not only share my learnings and also learning from each of you. So looking forward to a great conversation. So Saurabh, before I answer your question, I just want to take a couple of minutes to set the stage from CBRE perspective, where we are in the journey, and then I will go into your question. So CBRE is world's #1 global commercial real estate company. So when I moved from American Express to Ameriprise to CBRE, so I remember first time I was thinking, what is a global commercial real estate doing in the technology transformation, right? So it is unbelievable the pace with which CBRE is moving with the digital transformation, and it is operating in 100 plus countries. I'm sincerely hoping many of you on the call, you're all our clients one way or other, either on the leasing side or capital markets or property management or valuations. There are so many aspects of commercial real estate aspects we help. And as the Chief Digital and Technology Officer for Global Advisory, which consists of multiple lines of business under that, which, like, as I said, valuations, property management, capital markets, leasing, globally. So there are hundreds of digital products we build and maintain day in and day out. So when we decided to build our GCC in India, for all the right reasons that Mark showed in upfront, India was absolutely a terrific choice for us. We looked into many other countries also. Now, the way we established, one thing I absolutely want to make it clear is, while technology is important, what tools are required, that's very important. But before you get there, we need to have a very clearly articulated purpose of why we are doing, right? So, and what we are trying to accomplish with this, and what are the objectives and how we are planning to measure these objectives. So with that kind of clear thinking, how we started this journey. And if I just paint the picture of the global organization structure on the technology side, right? We have 3 business segments. So each segment has a Chief Digital and Technology Officer. So you can see them as 3 vertical leaders. They're aligning to the business heads. And then we have horizontal leaders who are like Chief Data Officer, Chief Infrastructure Officer, or Chief Information and Security Officer. And they are all the horizontal roles. Now, for all these roles, we have teams in India today. So close to 850, which we will be touching 1,000 by end of this year. So these 1,000 people in India, they support all these organizations, I said, the vertical as well as the horizontal teams. So for each of them, there is a leader in India, and that person, they all report to the head of the delivery center in India, and that leader reports to me. So that's why, there is a clear mark of like, the accountability here. So who is going to head this delivery center? And the people who are supporting these vertical and horizontal leaders, they are dotted line to these leaders also. So that way, from the performance management process, from the goal setting, and how we are going to measure them, that's all based on the metrics relationship here. So with that kind of structure, going back to Saurav's question, I actually break this into few parts actually. One is while planning, there are some tools that helped us immensely. And while executing this plan, there are many important tools that help. And then post implementation, when you are operating, there are some important tools that helped us. So, in each of these cases, there is a very interesting and strong connection to the slide that Mark showed, the tools under various categories, that workflow based and all the various things. Each and every one of them plays important role. It's almost that slide, if you map to the 3 dimensions, planning time, execution time, and operationalization time, you can clearly even make a 2x2 metrics on top of that slide. So during the planning time, we not only use the typical technology tools, but we also use the strategy tools also, right? So the risk versus reward, and why we are doing, and the cultural framework aspects. So there are various things that we thought through upfront. And also, involving the right leaders from the, governance wise, it's absolutely important. It's not just a technology team moving some work to India. It is me partnering with my HR leaders, my finance leaders, my legal and compliance leaders, my business leaders. They all are in this journey together. So that way, when I get there, it's very easy to explain what we are doing, why we are doing. While people may start with the conversation of cost, in my mind, that comes automatically, but there are many wonderful other things that can help here actually. So this is where, again, how do we measure the value, right? So what are the KPIs? Very clearly defining them upfront, and how we are going to measure. Some are tangible, some are intangible things. So again, defining them is important. And while planning phase, again, going and talking to each of these leaders, that's the vertical leaders and horizontal leaders, going double clicking one level even down, which are the teams that we are going to start with, right? So because not these 1,000 people didn't happen overnight. It happened actually 2019 onwards. Before that, we had a small team, but from there, we moved to these 1,000 people with a very clearly articulated plan and commitment from each of the leaders, what kind of products they're planning to build, and which are the ones in the invest category, which ones are in sustain category, which ones are in the decom category, and what kind of skill sets are required for them. And we have strategically established this in 2 locations in India. One, even from business continuation planning perspective, one in North, one in South. In North, we have in Delhi and in Gurugram. And as we speak, actually, we are planning to expand to Noida too. So that way we want to attract the right talent from 2 ends of the city, Delhi. And then in South, we have in Hyderabad. So with these centers, with the clear planning of who needs how many, what kind of resources, and what products they are going to work and all, that helped us immensely. And when it comes to the operationalization side, because as I said, because all these teams have their representatives in India and they are building day in and day out, it is not just, we are sending some routine or business as usual kind of work to India. That's not the case at all. They are integral part of our company. and they are integral part of our leadership teams and meetings and town halls and planning sessions and all. So from the operationalization side, we have various kinds of dashboards we created, and where I personally, I monitor them on a monthly basis actually. And these dashboards, of course, we built using Power BI, but that doesn't mean it has to be the only that. So you can pick whichever is your choice, that's fine. Now, for example, if I pick managed services, there are like 250 plus applications moved to a managed services team there. So what are the KPIs we are measuring? And at a click of a button, their functional leaders in US or in Europe or in Asia, they should be able to go and see the metrics. So it's not like once in a month, there is a massive report gets produced. Once in a month, we meet and talk, but these dashboards are real time and they are available, so people can go and see anytime. Similarly, on the product execution side, we have 130 plus product teams. Either they use Scrum or Kanban-based delivery models. So we clearly identified how are we measuring the performance of each product team. Whether it is, for example, the velocity of the team, or do we have the right people in the agile pod, or do we have enough product backlog for the next 2-3 sprints? There are various criteria we have set upfront. So at a click of a button, again, I can go and see that I can drill down the 130 products to by segment or by line of business, or I can narrow down to one product and see the data also. Similarly, we also have operational dashboards on the availability. This is uptime and performance aspects and all, right? So we have nicely created dashboard where I can go and see the availability of any product, or at, again, LOB level or segment level kind of thing. Similarly, I have another part of the dashboard is audit and compliance side, where I know how many open audit maps are there and what is the action plan, where are we in closing this kind of thing. So these are all there. And then there are other, of course, the fulcrum or the foundation is the collaboration tools. I'll wait for that maybe in the next few minutes, I'll touch on that. Saurabh, sorry, I went a little longer. I just wanted to set the context. Back to you.
That was very informative. Thank you, Sai, for getting us started. I'll now like to approach Dennis. That is, your proficiency is to infuse technology with processes. From the perspective of a third-party provider, I'll ask the same question. What has been your experience of using technology in virtual migration, transformation, and governance of GCC operations? Over to you, Dennis.
Well, thanks, Saurabh, and I'll build on Sai's response, as he's very well articulated, right? The virtual migration, transformation, governance is very well related to, the planning, the operationalizing, and then the monitoring aspect, right? So, I'll first start with the virtual transitions part. So virtual transitions for an operations function, right? So we've benefited a lot by using process mining tools, especially in the virtual world of transitions, to understand the as-is process, right? So typically in the past, this would have been done by an in-person due diligence where somebody would have visited and understood how the process is actually, happening currently. And using these process discovery tools or process mining tools early on has helped to uncover potential pitfalls early on as well, right? Like a few examples of pitfalls that were determined using some of these tools were like, some peripheral application, for example, whose access could not be provided to the GCC before it was remediated, for example, right? Or some because of data security constraints or what have you, right? Or some current paper-based processes which needed a workflow to be implemented prior to outsourcing it to the GCC. So those were some of the, process discovery kind of tools which enabled to kind of stem out some of these pitfalls. The second thing in addition, I would say, is that we have leveraged tools that can be installed in a subject matter expert's machine so that when they are conducting the trainings, an automated capture of the IT-driven business processes, which can be further leveraged to create e-learning content and process documentation during the migration, right? So we've leveraged those type of tools as well to aid the knowledge or content creation. Now for the second part, which is about leveraging technology for transformation. So while this is apparent, and I think while this has been stated earlier as well, I want to reiterate that one should focus initially on elimination and simplification before we really get to leveraging technology. So for the past few years, there's obviously been a lot of focus on cloud, robotics, machine learning. And while the benefits of cloud are more far-reaching, robotics and machine learning have given approximately a 20% benefit on fragmented process and as high as 50% in homogeneous processes, right? So while machine learning models were initially created specific to a particular use case for a company, there's also an emergence of creating generic machine learning models which can be fine-tuned for an organization. So as opposed to building it from scratch, they're ready-made models which can be leveraged and then fine-tuned for organizations. And some examples of that would be, where generic machine learning models were used was like for use cases where there's OCR that is required, right? Where there are machine learning-based OCR models now, and which can be used for invoice processing, or for like some KYC processes, right? Which are required in banking, or for chatbots, right? Where some existing models can be leveraged and then enhanced based on organization-specific needs. Now, for the third part of your question, which is about governance, or lack thereof, right, is often the key reason for failure of transformation initiatives, right? So I think a lot of these were mentioned, but I'll kind of quickly summarize. So one is setting up of the transformation book of work, which is very important. The second is establishment of the business case as to why we're doing what we're doing. The third is prioritization of the initiatives, right? Because you don't want to get lost trying to attack everything at one go. The next part is about cadence to tracking through those initiatives, right? So that, and establishing the right metrics, right? Establishing the right metrics upfront and then tracking it to measure the success of those initiatives. And it's important that, it's important that the regional process owners as well, right, play an active part in driving transformation alongside the GCC leaders. It just helps in alignment of the objectives and then driving a uniform transformation culture across the organization. With that, back over to you, Saurabh.
Thank you, Rajas. I'd like to now go back to Sai. Sai, with so many options available in the market today, what key points have to be considered while deciding upon the tools and technology? Over to you, Sai.
Yeah, very good question, Saurabh. I suggest, first of all, start the conversation with people, because any company's goals, I know people would like to start with shareholder goal, then customer goal, and then employee goal. I suggest flip that the other way, right? So this is where bring your servant leadership into action. And when you have right people and with the right level of engagement and motivation, other wonderful things will happen, right? So just keeping that way, what kind of tools are required? Again, before you touch the tools, again, think of what is the culture you want to create, right? So that's deliberately we need to think about that. And that drives what kind of tools you want to get into the, right? So starting with people and the culture you want to create. So for example, when my peers as the leaders, when we sat down, we take every year, we take like 2 days just locking ourselves and brainstorming about what should be the manifesto for all of us. It starts with each of us, we need to follow what we are saying. And so that manifesto has 7 bullets and a nice pictorial representation actually. And that tells us all about who we are and how we want to operate in every single interaction, right? So now that these 7 things are at high level, again, I'm just telling you is because it's a global organization, because we have our business partners are global, our clients are global, and the kind of properties we manage, the kind of the footprint we have, keeping all those things in mind, the tools comes as the next step, right? So then we want to make sure that we always keep ourselves into our our customers' point of view. So this is where the design thinking based approach is critical. It's not about the technology for the sake of technology. And we are here to enable our business partners and our clients' vision and their expectations, right? So by keeping that as the foundational thing, we also want to make sure that we are the organization where we are not afraid to try new things, but we encourage failing fast and then sharing that with everyone. So again, fail may not be the right word, because we want to encourage the word learning, because when things are not going the way you planned, that means there is a very important learning in that exercise. And how do you bring that kind of culture, and how do you track that, and how do you share that? Even when we are sharing our accomplishments, with the equal passion and excitement, we want to make sure we share our learnings also, not just what went well with what you planned versus where you learned something that didn't go the way you planned, right? So keeping those kind of things in the manifesto. Now comes the tools. The tools part, the collaboration is absolutely critical. So it is not, the culture is not top down, someone said something and hence just go and do kind of thing, versus we encourage our people to question and challenge, because I'm not the expert in every aspect of what we do, right? So I am fortunate to be surrounded by excellent technology talent around me. So together we help our customers and business partners, right? So the collaboration is a very crucial thing. And the second aspect is also the continuous learning is important, and that starts with me and my entire organization. So from learning and development perspective, what kind of tools we are giving them, and how are they learning and growing as per their personal development plans, and how do we measure those aspects, right? Again, there are various types of tech talks we have in the company, and how they share this information. And again, we record these things, and it's not like one time, if because of the global nature, not everyone can be joining these calls at the same time. So those things. Now, whether you use Slack or Microsoft tools or something. So I'm not saying you should use one particular company or tool, but I'm saying you absolutely need to have, especially when you have GCC kind of setup, that collaboration is so important, and that need to happen at various levels again. So at the leadership level is one thing, but at the product level, they need to communicate effectively. And you already touched about the use of tool like Jira, right? So again, we have such tools again where the 130 products are tracked very closely. And whether, again, as I say, whether you have Slack or Teams or Yammer kind of things, absolutely you should utilize them effectively, and creating the appropriate communities of practice, right? The COPs are important. It could engineering community and UX community, or architecture community, or infrastructure community, the data science community, and information security communities. So that way, people can choose to be part of, one can be in multiple groups, and they can communicate and learn from each other kind of thing, right? So those are the kind of tools we have implemented, and we share and we learn from each other through these tools.
Great. Thank you so much, Sai. Please allow me to ask you one more question. While moving to new technology, cost investment is always a factor. Can you shed some light on how to justify ROI of technology implementation adoption? Over to you, Sai.
Absolutely. And I can even take a couple of examples in CBRE. And this is a constant thing, right? It's not like I did this exercise 2 years ago or 3 years ago, because of the nature of the beast. Again, every day, every morning, there is something new happening. And we as the leaders, we need to be open-minded in trying them. And, first of all, when we try something new, I'll take a couple of examples. One is robotic process automation, for example, or the other one is low-code, no-code applications, how we are implementing. Again, as I said, our principle is we will not do something technology for the sake of technology, right? So we do proper proof of concepts, first of all, with any of these things. we want to learn the true value and are there any pitfalls with this and all. So once we do that proof of concept and once we have the data behind that supporting, now when we build the bigger picture view, we have a architectural governance process where the architecture team, along with all the senior leaders in technology, we all come together. So this business case will be presented where, this is the new tool or gadget or a process, and that can help us to accomplish this particular thing. This is the problem statement it can solve. And it's going to cost this much, and these are the benefits we can anticipate. So when we did the robotic process automation side, of course, there are so many tools and technologies available. So, whether it is the automation anywhere or UiPath or something, right? So, but again, I'm not suggesting one particular thing or anything. But when we tried with one of those tools, we created very clearly, we can articulate that this is the cost and this is how it's going to, and then the change management required also, right? So because don't underestimate the change management aspect. Is how easy it is to get that kind of adoption, that we need to think proactively. Now, once it crosses this gating within technology, then we go to our respective business partners and we socialize with them, and also we make sure that we include again finance and legal, and if it is a new skill required that we don't have currently, then absolutely we need to include HR also in the conversations, right? So that's the approach we took for robotic process automation. There, one of the learning or pitfall we observed is, if currently there is a manual process of 10 steps, you can't just apply RPA on all the 10 steps, and whatever inefficiencies you have in the current process, you can't just automate that and say, declare victory, right? So what we said is, first step is the business process mapping, and then the business teams need to go through that process and see, are all the 10 steps required first of all, or can we eliminate some things that are not relevant today? Maybe they were relevant 5 years ago. Is there opportunity to condense them from 10 to 5 steps or something, right? Now, once you do that, out of these 5 steps, how many you can automate? May not be all 5 steps are ready for automation, right? Or it's not practical. Then once they narrow down to, okay, 3 out of these 5 steps can be automated, then what is the process? How do they engage? And how much it costs? And small, medium, complex, small process cost this much, medium cost this much, complex is this much. So they also have the benefits associated to that. That way they have the complete equation, not just the cost part, but also benefits part. And then once we implement, they also need to know that if that is going to change every day morning, then that particular bot is going to fail in production, right? So these are the things we need to keep in mind. So that's how we implemented RPA as a center of excellence. So that way, not everyone is trying to figure out RPA. So we have a small team, but very efficient team to implement RPA across CBRE globally, right? So same kind of approach as we speak, we are also taking on low code, no code applications, right? So as the name is, catching up right now, it's quite possible our business partners can come and say, Sai, I heard that there is something called low code, no code. Maybe we don't need any code. There is a magic that can happen. So can you help me? Is that possible, right? So we need to be proactive and be prepared to explain to them, in a non-technical terms, what is low code and no code means, and when you can use, when you should not use that, and what are the use cases where we can try and do quickly, right? So again, the process we followed is exactly the same thing. When we come up with this, first of all, we want to encourage these kind of ideas. It can come from anywhere in the company, and we try them and we test them. And once we are ready, then we take it to the technology architectural governance part, what I said. Once there also it passes that gate, then we think of how to operationalize, how to bring change management aspects also into this. So that is the approach we have taken, and it's helping us.
Thank you, Sai. This was very informative. Thank you for sharing your insights. That is my next question is for you. You have been leading projects in the virtual world using technology. What were the major risks or challenges you faced specific to GCC operations? And what mitigation plan was adapted? If you can share your thoughts, please.
Sure. So I'd like to reiterate what Sai said, right, which I think is very important as well, right? Don't use technology for technology's sake, right? Have a clear understanding of which technology component is best suited for which problem type, right? For example, I can give you when robotics became popular, teams started leveraging them for areas where APIs could be leveraged, or for use cases which needed heavy data transformation in Excel or where ETL could potentially be used, right? Another risk, and again, this is again reiterating what Sai mentioned again, right, is not reimagining the process before automation. This creates more exceptions to be handled manually post the automation, which essentially diminishes the business benefit case, right? Also, if this is not done, there essentially are more handoffs and takeoffs, right, in the process post automation, which essentially creates more points of failure, right? So another risk is, and if we look at machine learning, right, for example, another risk is not having ownership of the data and appreciation of risks that are associated with the machine learning model itself, right? For example, the accuracy of the machine learning model is only as good as the data that is used to teach the model, which we've seen in cases like autonomous driving cars and all of that, right? So while it helps, you should fully have appreciation of the risks involved and to what extent you can kind of take it to. Short answer, back to you, Sarah.
Sarah, if you don't mind, let me interrupt for just a second. I just want to remind the audience that now would be a really good time to submit any questions that you have using the question box on your control panel. Some questions have already come in, Saurabh, so maybe you could take a peek and ask a couple of those to our panel members. We'll try to address as many as we can before we sign off today, but if not, we will respond in writing to you. So Saurabh, I'll turn it back over to you for some audience questions, and perhaps I'll jump in as well.
Thank you, Mark. So I'm going to club a few questions together and approach Sai. Sai, post-COVID, hybrid working model is the new normal. How is technology helpful in productivity handover between teams? Can you also give some insights on what advantages technology brings to ensure work-life balance? Sai, over to you, please.
Thank you, Saurabh. This is a very important question for two reasons. One, as the technology leader. Second, as our domain is global commercial real estate. So there, many people say that, okay, office part is done and, everyone can work from home forever kind of thing. Yeah, while fortunately or unfortunately, we all have to accelerate our transformations, and many ideas we had, we thought we are going to take 5 years to try to get there. We got there overnight, not because of your choice, but the entire world is forced to do that. So I truly say it's a hyper acceleration. It's not even a normal acceleration, right? So in this hyper acceleration, we don't have any choice other than innovating and every day. It's not even like one day we did and we are following. So thanks to technology, even what we are currently using right now, with that, we were able to move overnight that, okay, everyone is going to work from home and all. However, now as things get to new normal, as you correctly said, Saurabh, no one can say, we are going back to normal. So, we are not going to go back to previous 2019 or 2018 days, because we learned some new things, right? So in this new normal, one important factor I have to start with is the wellness of our employees is the most important thing. So we need to start with that in mind. So it's not a number game of, I want to bring X percentage to office or something. We absolutely want to monitor very closely. And I also tell my team very openly, honestly, that, what I am telling you today, may change in a month. Again, if there is a wave 3, wave 4, wave 5, and so don't just tell me that, Sai, you told me 6 months ago this, right? So, it's important for all of us to level set that way. And it's based on the principles of we want to take care of our people, and their health and their wellness is very important, right? So with that kind of foundation, I think like CBRE, I'm sure everyone else uses the word hybrid working model is going to be the reality. I know some companies may choose that, no, from January 1st, we want to bring 100% back to office. Or some companies may say, no, we are closing our offices 100%, we want to be virtual. But I feel that, again, the core in the middle is going to be operating under some kind of hybrid operating model. And we as humans, it is absolutely important to come together and partner and talk to each other. See, just 2 weeks ago, I was in India spending 2 weeks time with my teams there, both in Gurugram and Hyderabad also. What we accomplished in that 2 weeks, I could not have accomplished in 6 months on Zoom calls, right? The kind of offsite we had, the kind of planning we had for 2022, the kind of interaction I had with the teams, you cannot replace that with any kind of technology, right? So, but this is where, again, how we do and how carefully we bring them back is important. And another thing I'm extremely concerned is, while I can show my productivity chart, Saurabh, and say that actually our velocity has increased after we went back home and working from home, but we are not happy with that number. Actually, we are worried about their wellness, because it's almost their personal life and work life, they're getting blurred. Like, no one can say when the work is starting, when it is ending, which is not healthy in the long run, right? So we absolutely want to make sure that, they are, especially in a global work environment. That's another thing I get worried about my people is, there is never an end of the day, right? So there is always a business partner or a call happening in Europe or Asia or in Americas or Latin America. We want to set a goal of, like, okay, after 9:30 p.m., I don't want anyone from India joining any calls. Like, let the call happen, but the others can join, or the Zoom recording will be available for them next day morning, right? So those are the things. It is important. So the way we are thinking or planning right now is, there is something called soft launch and hard launch kind of thing. Soft launch of our offices in India already happened, and the offices are open, but we are not forcing anyone. If someone in fact, some employees reached out to us and said, Sai, so please allow us to come to office, because their apartment may not be conducive for taking calls the entire day, and maybe their spouse and themselves and the kids and their parents and in-laws, and it may not be the right thing. So they want to come and work from home kind of office, right? So that's what I'm calling as the soft launch part. From January 1st, what we are thinking is, by the way, this model is already implemented in US. So, I'm not saying anything new that is going to be there. Is we are planning to divide the team into 2 parts, whether you want to call blue, green, or group 1, group 2, or whatever names. But on group 1, it will be the entire team is in group 1, right? So it's not a sprinkled across kind of thing. So if I say, for example, my entire valuation team, technology team is in group 1, my property management team is in group 2. So we want them to come for 2 days, right? So Monday, Tuesday, group 1, Wednesday, Thursday, group 2, and Friday, everyone works from home. So that means in a net, they're still going to work 3 days from home, right? 2 days they are going to come to office, right? So that's just, again, I'm saying we want to start there and see how things go, because how we want to dial up or dial down, it depends on so many factors, as unfortunately we are all hearing the wave 3 kind of thing, right? So that is the way we are planning. But one important factor, team, is how we prepare our organization, because the open and honest communication is important. They should not double guess what's going on in leadership mind, right? I don't know what they're thinking, right? So that's why that open communication is important. And we tell them that, hey, I am doing this based on what I know today. And, things can change, next week or next month. That's the approach we are taking currently. By the way, the approaches are different globally because, again, as I said, CBRE's presence-wise, the way we are following this rule in Germany is right now different to UK, to Australia, to Singapore, and all, right? So I'm talking more about India right now. So again, even in India, on our business partner side, they are almost, last week when I was there, when I met my business partners in India, its office was full almost, right? So everyone was there, and I had all face-to-face interactions. But on the technology side, this is the approach we're planning to take.
Thank you, Sai. Let us now, we have a question for you. What were your biggest learnings in change management due to technology intervention during transformations? If you can respond to this.
Sure, Saurabh, and change management is absolutely critical when you look at any kind of technology intervention, right? So first and foremost, it is imperative that we get buy-in from all the stakeholders to driving transformation, right? And it is important to understand who the stakeholders are as well, right? There may be apprehensions at one extreme, right? In doing transformation, as employees may be worried about loss of jobs, and at the other extreme, there may be, there's a feeling that management does not listen to their ideas for transformation. So to address, and this is based on the surveys that we have done across teams and all of that, right? So to address all of these apprehensions, right? Communication and collaboration is the key element, right? The leadership team has to state the need for the transformation initiative and its role in staying relevant for their marketplace and for their clients. Managerial goals should also include, transformation targets, and adequate effort should be made to help identify the appropriate change agents within each team as well. As I mentioned, it's important to drive the culture of change in the organization, as there are experts in the organization who will have excellent transformation ideas, right? So you have to foster that and kind of cultivate that. And lastly, and most importantly, it is very important that the benefit cases are tracked. So we mentioned about metrics earlier. So you have to track the metrics to closure. So track the benefit case and celebrate the success of that, right? So people appreciate, what the transformation initiative has brought for them.
Very right. Dennis, thank you very much. And with this, friends, we come to the conclusion of our panel discussion. We have got some great responses and insights from our speakers. I would now like to invite my co-moderator, Mark, to take over from me for the final remarks from the panelists and close the session. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you so much, Saurabh, but I'm going to take a risk here, folks. I'm going to try and squeeze one additional question in. I'll ask you guys to be brief with your responses, then we'll go to your closing remarks. The question has to do with reverse innovation and generating product development ownership out of India, as opposed to the opposite. So the question really is, how important is this reverse innovation to drive GCCs in India so that they move from cost arbitrage to more transformation hubs? Maybe you both want to comment. I'll ask Darius first, but let's try and keep it brief and we'll finish up on time.
No, absolutely. So I think, Mark, it is absolutely important that the teams in India also, right, are driving innovation. So it should not be just that they're following the path of innovation. I think the good thing about India is that it's there's a lot of talent available and there's a lot of access to technology out here, right? However, fortunately or unfortunately, we haven't given it as much focus of actually, leading innovation from India, right? I think the GCCs would enable us to do that. In fact, when Sai mentioned earlier, right, that about creation of the business case, right? I think, and obviously, doing POCs and validating ideas, right? The teams, you can actually form a team which is basically doing a quick POC, failing fast or learning and and taking that forward to the larger teams, right, back in the regions. So definitely, I think there's a role. And I think, India is well poised from that aspect, from a talent availability as well as from a cost standpoint to kind of, do those POCs and fail fast.
Great, thank you. Saeed, do you feel the need to add into that for anything?
Yeah, just one statement is I am honored to have exceptional team from India, and they are truly empowered, and we have all role families there. So you just name starting from strategy team, enterprise architecture, product managers, UX designers, and then the engineers, data science teams. So each and every one of the teams are there actually. And many of these proof of concepts I said, they all happen there. And so I feel actually, you know, that's why whenever I talk to the team, I get more motivated and energized actually. So that's important.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Both of you, thank you. Saeed, by the way, I use often, don't be afraid to fail with my team. And I'm going to switch now based on your comments to don't be afraid to learn. So I hope you don't mind if I cannibalize that. I want to invite you both to leave any closing remarks. We'll start with Saeed and then over to Darius, and then I'll close out today's session. Saeed?
Don't be afraid to learn part. You know, my part is I'm doing a doctoral program as we speak. I completed my first year, Doctor of Business Administration in Artificial Intelligence and Data Sciences, and I 100% that resonates. Thanks for this opportunity, and I learned from all of you on the call. Looking forward to many more such sessions, and wonderful topic and great questions. Thank you, team.
Darius?
Yeah, so I'd say that, you know, if you look at our own personal lives, right? So technology has gone through tectonic shifts, right? With connected IoT technology, you look at cars, TVs, air conditioning, etc., right? Obviously, all of these advancements have made our lives easier, right? So we should continue to embrace these changes in our work lives as well and make our work lives easier, right? I think that should be the goal.
Thank you. And thank you both really for sharing your knowledge with us today. It's been terrific listening and learning. The discussion's been very engaging, and I'm sure that the experience and expertise that really you both provided the audience with will give them some perspective on their journey. At least we hope that's the case. So audience, this does conclude our Q&A session, but please don't leave us just yet. We do have some thank yous that I want to make sure I get to. And if you'll bear with me, I will actually get to those. I want to thank, first of all, our panelists, because without them, we could never have accomplished any of the learnings that we've shared today and throughout the session. I also want to thank you, our listeners from across the world. Saurabh, thank you today for moderating the panel discussion. Of course, I want to thank the US IBC, the ICICI Bank Canada, CBRE, and the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce for their support. And nothing would be said without fully expressing our entire team's thankfulness to the Next Time group back, who's been working behind the scenes to make this a very big success. So we invite all of our listeners to connect with us and to discuss with Next Time how we could work hand in hand with you and your organization. If you have any questions in line with today's discussion that we were unable to address due to our time constraints, then we welcome you to reach out to us at thinknext@nexttime.com, and our team will be happy to respond offline. So across the globe, we do think next at Next Time, and we invite you to do the same. We welcome your feedback on today's presentation. Please be vigilant, stay safe. Thank you and goodbye. And thank you all.
Thank you, team.